also joining the panel is Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Leslie, you've been sitting patiently there. So what do you think of the Tea Party?
Being very patient.
A lot of people have said the Tea Party, it's a passing fad. Where are you on the Tea Party?
Okay, and I'm glad they're listening. Listen to me. If you really mean what you just said, then how come you haven't put forth Democratic candidates? If you really mean what you said, then why don't you have a T next to your candidates' names and not an R? You can't go to people that stood on a GOP platform and say, hey, do what the Tea Party wants. Don't do what the Republican Party wants or what the American people who voted for them want. It's a slippery slope, Eric, in my opinion, when any organization, left or right, says, do it my way. And isn't that what the American people said they're tired of?
Mark, will you respond to her accusation that maybe it's not a fair and balanced middle-of-the-road Tea Party and it's actually a Republican group? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Anytime Leslie can produce a Democratic candidate that stands for fiscal responsibility, limited government, free markets, and the Constitution, we will happily work with that candidate. We're happy to support people like that. We as an organization don't directly support, endorse, or oppose candidates, but our people embrace those people. And so we don't really care whether they have an R or a D. Granted, those principles are adopted by many Republicans right now. Right. We expect to see a substantial shift in our direction in the 2012 elections by Democrats.
Hang in there. You know, the political process, you guys, isn't change. It doesn't change overnight. You go from RD to RTD overnight. I think they're doing the right thing. I think they got something here.
I think it's a good thing that they're more involved. I don't believe what they're saying there, that it doesn't matter whether there's an R or a D in front of it.
You're not buying it?
No, I'm not buying it. I agree with Leslie. I think it's us or them, and I'm really kind of tired of the Tea Partiers just complaining about all the things that have gone on in the past. I really think they need to stop whining and move forward with positive action.
It is hard to find a D that's all for smaller spending and lower taxation.
You'll have better luck finding a unicorn, basically, in this day and age. And then they just don't exist. And guess what? They've all been voted out of office. Now you have a very, very liberal Congress up on Capitol Hill. So, yeah, good luck now even trying to find them. They've all been voted out.
Joey, I apologize.
Leave the lefty out. Okay.
Yeah, leave the lefty out. We had another lefty. We had a lefty weighing in. All right, Meckler and Jenny Beth Martin, we appreciate your time, you guys. House Republicans plan to hold a vote next week on repealing health care reform law. The incoming House Majority Leader, Representative Eric Cantor, announced Monday that that vote will take place on January 12th, exactly 1 week after Republicans take control of the House. Cantor's spokesman says, quote, Obamacare is a job killer for businesses small and large, and the top priority for House Republicans is going to be cut spending and grow the economy and jobs. Democrats are flat out dismissing the plan. We'll see. Way in there.
Well, there's nothing to see about. First of all, I think it's very irresponsible for this to happen without an alternative plan to put in place. It's a largely symbolic gesture because, of course, it's going to pass Congress. It's not going to pass the Senate where the Democrats have control. And even if they did have control, Obama would veto it. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to repeal a plan, ought you not have some alternative plan that you could put forth to the American people to suggest that it's better? And there are also very popular provisions of the plan that they're looking to repeal, such as pre-existing conditions and coverage, such as 26 years old and being covered.
The bill is a full repeal. It's all repeal the law completely, full repeal, not bits and pieces.
Right, because you can't pull it apart. I mean, it really is designed to be, you know, if you pull out one, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So I agree with the full repeal. But I do agree with you, Joey. It's got to be a repeal and a replace. I think they made the promise. They've got to do it.
But
here's my...
Replace with,
because they keep talking about buying insurance over state lines, medical malpractice reform. They should put together a bill to replace it with. I do agree with you on that.
Another Obamacare, a new,
no. Something that's more pro-business. Something that's more pro-business. Something that makes a lot more sense.
I don't get that, Angela. I don't get it. Go ahead.
Why?
Can I get you to weigh in? Leslie,
twist my arm, Eric. Twist my arm. I have to tell you, this kills me. You know, the Republicans, John Boehner himself said, look, we're going to Washington to do, and these were the three things he said, and I quote, to cut spending, create jobs, and to not do politics the way it's been done in Washington for the past decades, okay? So let me ask you something, folks. How much spending will be cut by doing this, even just voting on legislation that will not pass in the Senate, that the president's not going to sign? How many jobs are going to be created? And this sounds to me the way Washington has been doing business. This is not what the American people want, left, right, center, or otherwise.
We know it's not going to pass.
It's a waste of time.
We know it's not going to pass before 2000.
Then they're wasting time. They're not doing what the American people want.
They're not necessarily wasting time. I think this is the way you politic. You start now. You start in votes. You show where you stand, and you look to see who gets reelected in 2012.
Not in a time when the economy is like it is and job growth is not what it should be.
Eric, hold on. Let me go in here.
I actually absolutely agree with you on this one.
Amen,
I believe
brother.
It's political theater. I think the Republicans have to step up and look. We're tougher than you are. We won. We're going to show you. But it's not going to change things, and they're not going to repeal the bill.
Keep it up, Wing. Keep it up, Wing.
Absolutely will.
We're going to swing you around to the left side of the screen any minute right now. Hold on, guys. California gets a new governor, and they're stuck with the same old problems. Now, university employees who make more than $245,000 a year threaten to sue because they say their $184,000 pension is not enough. Here's our own William LaJeunesse.
Across California, public employees fight to protect their pensions, which fiscal hawks say are quite generous.
The pension benefits for UC workers for the last 20 years have been 100% funded by taxpayers. The employees have not paid anything toward their pensions.
At the University of California, employees can retire at age 60 with full benefits. When the university tried to increase that to age 65, unions said no deal. In LA, teachers are fired based on seniority. That last hired, first fired policy decimates poor performing schools where staffs are predominantly young. When the district tried to change the policy, again, unions said no.
Now, if unions don't agree to concessions, lawmakers' only leverage may be bankruptcy to void those union contracts. In Los Angeles, William LaJeunesse, Fox News.
All right, what about ripping up those contracts and just starting over? Larry, here it is. They overspend. The state has a $28 billion budget shortfall, and here we have educated teachers who should know better saying $184,000 at retirement, just not enough. Raise it.
Yep, and UC's doing the right thing. However, these guys are typical Americans. We want to cut back on everything until it affects us. And once it becomes personal, we go, no, 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 you can't do that. We'll sue you if you do that.
Marshall, you're shaking your head. Yes, 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 but we have to start somewhere, don't we? I mean, come on. These pension, this unfunded pension liability, this pension overhang is killing us, California specifically.
Well, being that I live in California, guys, and I'm paying into this more than any of you,
right.
what I do not feel that the greed, I do agree with the last gentleman who spoke, that is the American way, which is, hey, 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 you know, yell and scream and fight, but, you know, not in my backyard, don't touch my bank account, etc. The original deal is what they need to stick to, suing to ask for more ridiculous, too much litigiousness in our country. Certainly that's more than enough in a bad economy, and most people, including myself, don't have pensions. But to constantly blame pensions every time a federal or local government is broke is not fair, because there are many other line items.
It really happens to be the epicenter of the problems going on across the country. That's why we blame them. Go ahead, Joe. You say they're not asking, but of course they are.
No, they're not.
For more.
No, they're not. They're asking for what they're entitled to. Why should the rules change at the end of the game? In the event that I'm entitled to a pension,
the ceiling. They hit the state ceiling on how much you can give any individual.
If I'm entitled to a pension, then I should be getting that pension. The rules shouldn't change for me, and we should not.
It's all a sense of entitlement.
They earned it. It's not entitlement. These are earned pension benefits that they deserve and are entitled to.
No, when the front page of the New York Times today has a story about how it's time to cut back, and everyone's realizing that, even Andrew Cuomo in New York, on these union pensions, because they are at the root, the crux of these states and cities going bankrupt. You know it's time.
And Joey, what would you suggest? No, go ahead, raise that ceiling, put the state in further dire circumstances, and fire some teachers.
First of all,
but here's the issue: you're going to end up firing people. That's okay.
No, I think it's okay to find alternatives to fund what you promised to fund. I can't have a contract with you, Eric. Well, listen, the point is, look, I'm not an elected official. I don't purport to be. But the fact is that we can't change rules at the end of the game.
Do you have one? Do you have an alternative? You don't want to fire people, but you don't want to pay them exorbitant amount, and you don't want to pay the tax.
Quite frankly, Eric, you stick with the deal. If somebody is asking for more than the deal, then that's unfair and it's unnecessary. But if we're going to talk about cuts,
is that what you're saying?
If we're going to talk about cuts, every legislator on a state and federal level can cut their own pay. I don't see anybody, Democrat or Republican, doing that in California or in Washington.
That cutting legislator pay isn't going to bring California out of a $28 billion deficit.
Andrea talked about Cuomo.
I love these liberals that say stick to the deal, stick to the deal. When look at Obamacare, for example, the way the bill's structured. This White House gives carve-outs to whoever it wants. It's making its own rules. So what about that deal?
Well, I'll tell you about that deal.
Andrea, where were you?
Let me say this.
Now, Andrea, during the Bush administration?
You mentioned Andrew.
I knew, Leslie, you
mentioned
couldn't get
Andrew
to a show
Cuomo
without mentioning George Bush. So congratulations.
And what Cuomo has done, right, is he said, I'm taking a 5% cut in my salary, and I'm asking people in my cabinet to do likewise. That's a responsible measure that perhaps everyone should do.
Will you stop with the 5% salary cuts in government?
It's a start.
It's a drop in the bucket. You know what you need to do. You all know what you need to do. You have to renegotiate every single contract, every pension, every contract across the board, and then maybe start closing the budget gap and stop spending. Larry, last word.
Absolutely. You got to stop and start all over. You can only pay for what you can afford to pay for, and there's no money to pay for this, so you stop and renegotiate.
That's right. They're going to have to leave it there. Up next, a segment